Whether you're in North or South Carolina or anywhere else in the world, enter the Cat Cave to listen to your favorite Carolina Panthers podcast as part of the Keep Pounding Podcast Network and powered by the Fans First Sports Network, where you can find other shows like Embrace Debate or Inside the Vault. Today, please welcome to the show executive producer of the Keep Pounding Podcast Network, owner and creator of Tobacco Road Sports Radio and Sports Carolina Monthly, co-host of Embrace Debate and the Believe in Panthers podcast, Mr. Desmond Johnson is with us. Des, how's it going, bud?
What's up, man? What's going on? I didn't realize I was doing so much.
Yeah, you got a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
You got your what is it? The feet and the fire all over the place, man.
It's crazy too because this summer I was bored out of my mind. I was basically just door dashing all month, and I was like, I can't wait for stuff to come back, and it all hit like the same week, like everything hit at the same time. So can't complain. No, happy to be here. Glad you asked me on.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Michael Davis, a little under the weather. We're wishing him all the best. He'll be back with us here very soon. But you mentioned it. You were bored during the summertime, and we're right here in football season, approaching the NFL Week 1. So let's get into it. Since we didn't have a show last week, let's get into a couple of the storylines coming out of the last week of the preseason. First of all, preseason week 3, Bryce Young was able to finally find the end zone against the Detroit Lions, albeit, and once again, limited play time. And if you listen to the show, I was adamant that if Bryce Young could not find the end zone, that he needed to stay in the game. Clearly that didn't happen. He found the end zone. We got to see 4 quarterbacks play in that game, or at least four players making pass attempts in this game. Des, your thoughts on the fact that Bryce Young, in his 3rd preseason game, was finally able to find the end zone and what it might mean going forward into the regular season?
I was never really worried. Bryce Young seems to not get rattled. Like I was trying to think of a time where he's been like rattled, not upset at a play that went wrong or anything, but like actually rattled by defense. And I haven't really seen any of that really at any level I've watched him on. I knew it was only a matter of time. He's had, random people in and out the lineup. They're not even running real plays really. So it was good to see him in preseason week 3 kind of string together 2 pretty good drives. It makes me feel more comfortable about them going forward on offense. Really, it's going to be a matter of who's available on Sunday in terms of who he's got to throw to. That's what I'm more concerned about more than anything else. But I was never really worried about Bryce, even after I came to grips with the fact that we were drafting him and kind of did my due diligence into finding out about him and learning about him and hearing him now and seeing how he operates. I feel like he was the best pick. For the Panthers in general. He was the number 1 pick. He feels like he's separated himself from everyone else in that draft. And maybe he was already there to begin with. Maybe I just needed a little convincing, but it's preseason. The touchdown didn't really mean, it didn't mean anything to me, really. It didn't matter to me if he played at all that 3rd game, but they probably needed it for confidence going into week 1 versus Atlanta, because now they get to open up this playbook and actually work on the stuff that guys like Skylar Callahan and others that are down at training camp and practices have actually seen them doing. So I'm excited to see what kind of offense they have, because right now no one knows what kind of offense they're running. They didn't really run one in the preseason on purpose. So excited about that, but I was never really worried about Bryce.
See, I was the exact opposite. So let me rephrase. I was never concerned about Bryce. I was concerned about the offensive line play and whether or not you want to open up the playbook. The offensive line was it looked pretty bad in the preseason. Every quarterback behind that line of scrimmage was under pressure. A lot of sacks given up in the preseason. So I wanted to see that they were able to protect Bryce Young long enough to go and find the end zone. So I was very adamant that he needed some play time. I mean, even if it was just to build the confidence, I think he needed to play in that game and play significant snaps to prove that, as limited as they wanted to keep that offensive playbook in the preseason, that they were able to use some of it just to move the ball down the field and get into the end zone, which is what we saw. Yeah. And I'm not upset about it. Now, you mentioned who's going to be available. Every team in the NFL had to make roster cuts to get down to the NFL limit 53-man roster. A couple of surprising names on this list. First of all, the Panthers acquire wide receiver Amir Smith-Marset. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. A wide receiver from Kansas City. But in that move, they released former, I believe he was a 3rd or 4th round pick, Shi Smith from the University of South Carolina, who was, I wouldn't say he was turning heads, but he was getting a lot of love in the preseason with the effort he was putting out. Another guy that they signed in the offseason that we all expected to be on this team, Deion Jones, another one of the victims of the final day roster cuts or the final roster cuts of the season. Now, granted, the Panthers did go and sign Justin Houston, which is a huge addition to this defense, but you still think that Deion Jones is going to be kept on this roster for depth. What are your thoughts on the moves that the Panthers made right heading into the regular season?
Well, starting with Deion Jones, I think the main reason why he got cut when he got cut is because they were expecting Marquise Haynes to come back. So I think that's part of that. And if no one's picked up Deion Jones, I wouldn't be surprised if they go back and pick him up or at least put him on practice squad. Because it sounds like the way Frank Wright and others are talking, they're looking at it as a 53-man roster plus those, 16 guys on practice squad? So they're looking at it as a full amount as opposed to just the 53. Shi Smith was a bit of a surprise because we're going through some injuries at wide receiver. And the main thing you heard this preseason with the Panthers receivers was separation, that they weren't getting enough separation from receivers or from defenders. Shi Smith felt like he was, but he feels like one of those dudes we talk about every preseason, like that he's having a good preseason and then he just can't really latch on during the regular season into a role of some sorts. I was more surprised about Shi than anybody else, even though I know they went out and signed Deion Jones. But I didn't go check to see if they've landed with other teams. I know that as of like 12 noon the next day, none of them have been picked up by teams. I know some have been picked up now, including Matt Corral. But I think Shi was the bigger surprise to me. I think they feel more comfortable about their defense and the parts they have there than the offense. So a little bit of a surprise Shi got sent packing, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's back on this team at some point during the year.
Yeah, especially with the injury to Terrace Marshall. I mean, he was carted off early in the preseason with a back injury. I haven't seen any real updates, even though he's on the depth chart listed going into the regular season. But I'm with you. Like again, as I've made it very clear that if I am nothing, I am a homer for my alma mater.
That's okay.
And it was really disappointing to see not only Shi Smith but Josh Vann also get cut. Josh Vann had an outside chance anyway as an undrafted free agent going into this offseason. But Shi Smith is when I checked the interwebs, I did not see Shi Smith on any practice squad that he had been picked up by anybody. But you did mention Matt Corral. Michael and I talked a lot about Matt Corral on the show and what he needed to do to sort of secure a roster spot because we obviously knew that Bryce Young was taking over as the starter. Andy Dalton was going to be the backup. So where does that leave Matt Corral? Matt Corral is waived, and instead of the Panthers going after him and trying to re-sign him onto the practice squad, he signs with the Patriots. Now, the Patriots is a whole nother story because they cut everybody in their quarterback room except for Mac Jones. Would go and re-sign, what can I say his name now, Bailey Zappi, as well as Matt Corral to go to the Patriots practice squad. Now, granted, again, Andy Dalton, phenomenal backup to have. He's serviceable. If something happens to Bryce Young, he can keep this offense into some games. But was it a mistake by the Panthers not to at least re-sign Matt Corral to the practice squad?
Well, they couldn't. They had to let him go first. They had to let him go through waivers. So what happened was he didn't choose to sign with the Patriots. The Patriots claimed him off of waivers. And for those that don't know how it works, once you cut a player, they have to make it through waivers, meaning every team in the league has to have an opportunity to pull them off of waivers. And I believe they do it off of your record from the previous year. So if you get past all 31 teams, then you become eligible to come back to the original team you were, and they can re-sign you, put you on practice squad, or you can sign with anybody. You become a free agent pretty much at that point. It's funny, too, because Corral's been attached to the Patriots since he landed in the league, because if people remember, the pick that the Panthers traded to trade up into the third to draft Matt Corral, they traded with the Patriots. So that was actually the Patriots pick to begin with. And now it's weird how it comes back around.
Full circle.
He's with the Patriots. And I'll tell you what, man, I would not be surprised if Matt Corral is starting for the Patriots by midseason. Like, I don't think they're sold on Mac Jones. And Matt Corral could fit in there pretty snug and get going pretty quickly, especially after being at Carolina for the past couple of months with these quarterback gurus, Frank Wright and Jim Caldwell and Josh McCown. He's been tutelage underneath them for the past 3 or 4 months, and now you hand him off to Bill Belichick. So it's like I would not be surprised if Matt Corral is starting for the Patriots by early November. Early November, I could see him starting a game.
Do you think if Matt, and I'm going to throw a hypothetical at you, just a really, really hard hypothetical.
Okay.
Matt Corral doesn't get hurt last year in the preseason. He will eventually start some games for the Carolina Panthers. If Matt Corral never gets hurt, do the Panthers draft Bryce Young?
Yeah, they still get him because I don't think anything changes. Steve Wilkes wouldn't be the head coach. Really, you have to add on if Matt Corral played games, would the Panthers have won the division? Because that's really the real question. Because if they had won the division, Steve Wilkes is probably still here.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it would have. See, the way Wilkes was running the team as an interim head coach, he was really favoring the run. So I don't know how much we would have seen of Matt Corral. Now, he might have completed some of the passes that Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold could not. But we don't know. Like, we honestly have no idea because we hadn't really seen him. So I don't think it would have changed too much. I don't think it would have changed who got hired. Like, it's one of those big, like, Marvel what if type things. Like, so many things could have ballooned out of that. But I find it hard to believe that Matt Corral could have potentially been the savior of the franchise and kind of kept things intact just if he was on the field. Like, I don't think he's going to be that kind of quarterback. I think he can be a steady hand. I think he can learn quick. He could end up being a pretty good quarterback under the right hands. But with the way things were going last year, it felt like they were going to be run heavy regardless of who quarterback was. And we saw that through multiple quarterbacks. They were still running the ball 30, 40 times a game. Mm-hmm. It was kind of a run the ball, stop the run type philosophy, which I loved. But I don't think it would have showcased Matt Corral. They didn't really have the coaching staff to showcase Matt Corral at that point too. So I don't think that it would have made much of a difference. And to be honest, I thought they were going to come in with 2 quarterbacks anyway. So the writing was on the wall. I didn't think they were going to carry 3. Andy Dalton might be the best backup quarterback in the whole league. So other than Cooper Rush. So, I mean, that's kind of where I am with Corral. So
is Cooper Rush the backup anymore? Or is Trey Lance sitting third string to Cooper Rush now?
Trey Lance is going to the practice squad, or they're going to stow him away for a couple of years. Trey Lance got given the keys in San Francisco and could not hold on to the starting job. I refuse to believe that he's going to beat out Cooper Rush.
Why would you give up a 4th round pick for a guy who couldn't cut it in an offense like San Francisco? It doesn't make sense to me.
I think some of it is like mind games playing with Dak. Like, hey, we got this tucked away 2 years from now when your contract's up and you're going to start asking for money again. We got another kid over here who, by all accounts, metric-wise, can throw farther than you. He's bigger than you. He's faster than you. He's younger than you. So just keep that in mind. We got him over here. But I don't think that they would want to replace Dak with Trey Lance unless 2 years down the road, they're just seeing this in practice and they just can't deny it, like a Tony Romo type situation. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know if that's going to happen, but Trey Lance just needs snaps. He hasn't really played football since 2020, really. I mean, I think he only played like 19 games in college and then got hurt last year. So they can, that wasn't intended for him to be the backup or anything in Dallas at all. I think he's a project. If anything, Dak needs to be worried about Cooper Rush taking his job because I think Rush ran that offense more effectively than Dak did. And Dak starts throwing these interceptions again. You know how the Dallas fans are; they'll just turn. So, like,
it doesn't take much.
They're probably wanting to turn right now. So, I mean,
oh yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't think Trey's going to be a threat to Dak anytime soon.
You mentioned Dalton being one of the best, if not the best backup in the league. I'm going to go back to Matt Corral for just a second, and then we'll move on. Because you mentioned that he could potentially be the starting quarterback for New England come November. Do you think that Matt Corral has a future in the league? Like, again, we haven't seen much of him, but I remember watching him throwing bombs against the South Carolina defense when he was playing at Ole Miss. He has an arm. He seemed like a pretty mobile quarterback. Had he not gotten hurt in his bowl game, I don't think his draft stock falls, I guess lower than it does. What are realistic expectations now that Matt Corral is out of Carolina and now with the New England Patriots?
Well, it depends on depending on where he landed, and being in New England, it's pretty ideal. He's like, again, only Mac Jones is there, and Mac Jones is probably the same age as him. So you're kind of dealing with a situation where he can kind of really come in and really compete because Mac Jones hasn't really locked that position down as I am the starter. He's just like the incumbent. Like somebody can come in and take him out if they show enough. And if Matt Corral's talented enough and can get in it quick enough, who's the OC in New England?
It's Bill O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien.
If I'm not mistaken.
So, yeah, I could see Matt Corral flourishing in Bill O'Brien's offense, to be honest. I fear the Patriots don't have enough skill position players around him to make him successful today. But if it almost feels like the Patriots are going back to the way they were early 2000s, where they're going to lean heavy on their defense. The quarterback just needs to not make mistakes. They're going to run the football, no turnovers. Matt Corral could probably play in that system, but it sounds like Matt Corral needs to be more of a slinger of the football, sort of. He kind of strikes me as a kind of a gunslinger at heart, but he's not going to be able to do that in New England. So I don't know, but it might be good for his career to just reset before it even began. What better place to do it than with the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Bill Belichick in New England? So I think he has a shot. Just because of where he ended up landing, they'll do everything they can to squeeze whatever talent he has out. But once you get past like second round, third round, it's really hard to determine if a player is going to be able to stick around, especially at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, you've only got guys like Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott who are those middle round quarterbacks who turn out to have a decent career, at least for a short period of time. We're still, out. The jury's out to see if Russell Wilson can turn around in Denver. And then again, we already talked about Dak Prescott. If he can't, prevent the interceptions, then we might see Cooper Rush. All of it kind of comes back to the fact that, not only is the NFL season upon us, fantasy football is upon us. And there are some new faces in Carolina that I'm sure there are a lot of people wondering whether they should draft them in their fantasy drafts. I know personally, at least in one draft, I went after Miles Sanders, I believe somewhere around the third round. I know, shout out to the commish of Suplex City, Will Smith in our big league got Bryce Young super late, which is it's weird because the way our keeper rules are set up. If you draft past the 11th round and you don't drop the guy, you can keep him as your last round pick next year. So if Bryce Young turns out to be that guy,
dude,
that's a last round keeper for Bryce Young for my guy Will. Again, a lot of new faces here in Carolina. What do you expect from a fantasy football perspective here with the Panthers? I mean, we got a pretty good defense with some really good players up front. You got a couple of new receivers, a tight end that's built a great rapport that I've made some very outlandish comments about my unrealistic expectations for Hayden Hurst. What do you think? What are you expecting to see from a fantasy perspective here in Charlotte?
Well, out of the whole team, I would pick the Panthers defense on fantasy football because I feel like they do have the cornerstones to be a top 10 defense. Like they have an all pro level or a pro bowler at all three levels of the defense. All this depends on whether or not Brian Burns is there and actually playing. But Brian Burns and Derek Brown up front on that line, then the linebacking core clearly is the best linebacking core in the NFC South. It might be a top 5 unit overall in the whole league in terms of using Frankie Louvu and Brian Burns and Shaq Thompson and Justin Houston. That's pretty good. That's a lot.
I can't imagine those three guys on a linebacker blitz, man. I cannot imagine that on an all-out linebacker blitz. I mean, they'd be terrifying.
Yeah, man, Frankie Louvu is about to have he had a breakout season last year with over 100 tackles, but I think the nation's going to find out about Frankie Louvu this year. And then in the secondary, I think J.C. Horn is a top 5 cornerback. The problem is he just hasn't been out there long enough for people to realize it. But if you look at his metrics and what he's done when he's out there, he's as close to a shutdown corner you're going to get in today's NFL. So they have the pieces there. I would trust the Panthers defense on fantasy football. On offense, is a little bit harder. Miles Sanders is a good pick because he's going to be the lead backs and get most of the carries. This line is more of a run blocking line than pass blocking, which is why they looked so good the last 8 games last year. That's why Icky got graded so highly because they were running the ball like 50 times. So wasn't a lot of opportunity to block for the passer. So we might see some of those warts come out this year as they throw a little bit more. If my understanding is correct, Frank Wright loves tight ends in his offensive scheme. So he utilizes them a lot. It's probably why they kept 5 of them on the 53-man roster. I'd probably Hurst is a good one. I don't know about Tommy Tremble, like wasting a pick, maybe late round, something like that. But the tight end in that offense is going to be really important too. I don't know wide receiver wise, I would take anybody here except for Adam Thielen. He might be like the safety valve for Bryce. So I could see him catching, 60, 70 balls this year. I'm waiting for Jonathan Mingo. That's the guy I think is going to be the one that's going to be ultimately Bryce's number 1 target. I just don't think it's going to be this year. And then I haven't heard much for Terrace Marshall Jr. in terms of his injury and what's going on there because we were high on him coming into the offseason. Mm-hmm. He's got some young guys, but I don't know if I'd put anybody fantasy football-wise there. I'd probably be Thielen at wide receiver. Sanders is probably your pick at running back in the Panthers defense.
So Michael's gonna love to hear the fact that you're so high on Mingo. He really thinks that Mingo's year is this season. He thinks that Mingo is going to
Very
break
good be.
out. Obviously, we didn't mean to mention DJ Chark. He went down with a hamstring injury. That hamstring injuries with wide receivers scare me because it will linger at least half the season.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look out west, Cooper Kupp had a hamstring injury early in camp, and now he had a setback where he had to go to a specialist to take a look at. So DJ Shark kind of scares me. I have made the outlandish comment, considering that Reich likes to play with his tight ends, that Hayden Hurst will either catch 80 to 90, either have 80 or not to 90 receptions, or have 1,000 yards in this offense. Is that crazy? Is that completely, to steal Michael's catchphrase, out of pocket of me?
I don't think it's crazy because again, he does utilize the tight end. Sometimes I think he uses 2 tight end sets, so you could see a set with Hayden Hurst and Tommy Tremble out there, or something to that effect, where one of them maybe drops back and plays fullback because they didn't keep a fullback as far as I remember correctly. I don't think it's far fetched. I guess it really depends on how much you think Bryce is going to throw for total his rookie year. I could see. I don't know about 4,000 yards. Well, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Now I'm starting to think. I mean, the division's not crazy.
I was going to say he gets 2 games against the Bucks, 2 games against the Falcons. Yeah. The Saints are the only defense that I'm really worried about. So he's got 4 easy games right there where he can throw it 300-400 yards pop.
And he's going to have a couple of times to just sling it. Like, I think Bryce gets to 3,500, 3,800 yards. And if he does that, then yeah, he's got somebody near 1,000. So it probably will be the tight end. So yeah, I don't think that's far fetched. I think Hurst could get to 1,000 yards at least. I don't know about the 80, 90 catches, that because he's got multiple guys. And so we know who he's settled on wide receiver wise. I don't know if I could say the tight end's going to get 80, 90 catches like a Kelsey or somebody, but they will focus on Hurst in this offense, I do believe.
Well, I personally love the fact that you mentioned J.C. Horn, a former Gamecock, and Hayden Hurst, former Gamecock. I'm always going to beat the drum of my former Gamecock.
You should, after the weekend that you had to go through this weekend, because I'm a Carolina fan. So like I know what y'all y'all were going through it. So
listen, the only 2 teams. This is not a joke. I'm talking about this on Tap Outs and Touchdowns later this week. There are only 2 football teams in the state of South Carolina that won football games over the weekend: Charleston Southern and Furman. Clemson and South Carolina lost to Duke and North Carolina. Coastal Carolina lost to UCLA. Now they covered the spread, so that works out for me. But nevertheless, it was a.
I don't know what happened.
And Citadel got waxed by Georgia Southern. So
Clemson looked awful. Like, I call high school football on Friday nights here for radio, and they look like a high school team, like a bad high school team. Like, you can't say that that Clemson is not overrated when they go into the red zone 4 times and have 2 blocked field goals and 2 fumbles. Like, you can't lose to Duke 21 point. Like, you can't lose 28-7 to Duke. Like, you just can't. So
I was genuinely surprised they were still in the top 25, ranked 25th in the second polls.
Yeah.
Listen, as a South Carolina fan, I wanted to do the classy thing and be like, you know what? We suffered through it Saturday. Clemson has to suffer through it Monday. Like, I get it. However, I hope and pray that the Clemson fans who screamed that if you put Cade Klubnik in against South Carolina, we never lose that game, because that was the quarterback that played the entire 4 quarters against the Duke Blue Devils on Monday night and mustered a total of 7 points.
And meanwhile, DJ Ungalele across the country at, where'd he go? Oregon State?
Oregon State. Yeah. I think he threw for 3 touchdowns.
He was like 20 for 24.
He was ripping. Out. Now, granted, it's still out to see whether or not Duke is going to really be that good, or if Clemson District's going to be this bad this year. I mean, I've saw Clemson fans who have been beating their chests. Oh yeah, Clemson, this is a dynasty. We're going to be here forever. Have now gone back to, you know what? We're going back to the Tommy Bowden days, 8-5 or 8-4, 6-6. Like,
really? Just one loss to Duke just caused them to just go.
They're completely off the bandwagon. Like, you know what? Like, we got to see the best Clemson had to have. We got 2 national titles in their lifetime. That's all that matters to me. I'm good now. I know we're going to be bad. It's just that's just what they have to deal with.
Well, some of that is because of the way Debo recruits and builds his team. He doesn't really believe in the portal. And as we saw this weekend, you can build a whole team in the portal in the offseason. I go ask Deion Sanders how he built that Colorado team in like 4 months. Like, literally.
I can't wait to talk about that game. I can't. That was I'll never understand. And then I saw a meme with Deion Sanders talking to a kid from TCU, and the text for the meme was the one coach you don't want talking to your players after a game. It's like
It's like
he's just
Suge
gonna
Knight at the
cherry
Swiss
pick
Award, telling him to come to death row. Like, I mean, seriously, like it's like that vibe. Where like, all those players on that sideline were looking over there like, man, they look like they're having a lot of fun over there. Like,
I didn't realize Cavassier Smoke transferred from Kentucky over to Colorado.
dude,
I had no
everybody in
idea.
Colorado. Like, they got everybody. Like,
I'll tell you what, Shedeur Sanders put himself up in the list for Heisman after the game that he had.
Travis Hunter too. Like they both of them have got to be front runners for the Heisman, right? Like I don't remember anybody else like flashing this past weekend other than those two dudes.
Well, and now, and we'll get back to Panthers here in 2 seconds. Now that we saw what Nebraska could do with former Panthers head coach Matt Rule and former South Carolina offense coordinator Marcus Satterfield, we saw how that ended for them. And now Nebraska gets to play Colorado this week. So
we were just talking about this on Believe in Panthers because we weren't even going to talk. We weren't going to mention Matt Rule's name this year, and I was like, in that press conference, Colorado versus Nebraska, somewhere in there, he's going to mention the Carolina Panthers. I don't know why. I don't know why he keeps talking about us, but he's going to. So we're already looking forward to recapping that on Believe in Panthers next week. It has nothing to do with us, but we're gonna bring it up. But I mean, we love it. We love the whole thing. I'm behind Coach Prime in Colorado. I posted it around like halftime. I was like, regardless, win or lose, I'm following this Colorado team the rest of the year because I really don't follow college football that much anyway, other than my Tar Heels, and you know how that goes. But this Colorado team feels fun. Like it feels like they can be. Give them a month. They keep winning games like this, they're going to get pushed into the top 10. Like, and then the fun's really going to begin. So we'll see. We'll see what they do. But confidence goes a long way with these kids, and Prime's got it in buckets. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
Yep, we had a fun week 1 in college football, and now we get a week 1 in the NFL. Des, your opinion, what are the keys to the game here, week 1 at the Atlanta Falcons?
Simple as simple can be. Stop the run the football. It's tried and true. It's been the same on every level of football since the 1800s. It's going to be the same on Sunday. The Panthers if the Panthers can limit the Falcons to under 100 yards rushing, and they can get 100 plus yards rushing themselves, they will win the football game. That's kind of how I feel about it right now going into it. Atlanta is limited a little bit on offense other than Kyle Pitts, but he needs a quarterback to throw it to him. We haven't seen enough from Desmond Ridder. I've been hearing he's been doing really good things, but everybody's been doing good things in preseason, so we got to see it. And then Bijan Robinson, the running back they drafted in the top 10 this past draft, I expect him to get a pretty heavy load of carries, but this is his first NFL game ever. So, like, let's see what exactly he can do. The Atlanta defense is suspect, so I feel like this is a good first game for the Panthers on the road to really try this offense out. And I think we're going to see not some trickery, but we're going to see some things in this offense that we didn't see a bit of in preseason. We're like, whoa, where did that come from? Like, and I think that's what's going to help. I've got the Panthers winning this game on the road week 1.
Yeah, listen, I'm right there with you. I think as long as it's been since the Carolina had a high-powered offense, I just want to see them put some points on the board. I don't think Desmond Ridder is a good quarterback. I've been very adamant that Desmond Ridder is not the answer in Atlanta. They're going to be at the bottom of the league, picking one of those Caleb Williams, maybe Shedeur Sanders, or whoever the case is, whoever's coming out.
Oh gosh, I didn't even think about Shedeur Sanders being in the NFC South.
Yeah, so and Deion played for Atlanta. So
oh no.
So yeah, it's I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I think I'm right there with you. I think Leon Miles Sanders coming off a career season, get the ball out to your Adam Thielen, to your Hayden Hurst, make the game easy for Bryce Young to build some momentum, to get his feet underneath him, and then just kind of be that stifling defense that we think the Panthers can be. So, Des, you said Panthers win. What's your score prediction here?
I'm gonna go 30-27 Carolina. Kind of a high flying week 1, filling each other out type of game. I think we're gonna be both sides are gonna be trying new things. Again, nobody knows what Carolina's running. Now, granted, a lot of that is based on me expecting Brian Burns out there on Sunday. I feel like between now and really this time tomorrow, by Thursday, I think they should have something in place. They need to have something in place by midnight tonight, really. But I don't think they're going to let this go much longer. If they got to bite the bullet, pay more than they wanted to, then so be it. But I think both sides are waiting because they're waiting on Joey Bosa. Bosa sounds like he's ready to hold out. So I don't think that Burns is willing to go that far. So as we get closer to Friday, I think that they'll do something. They'll figure something out. I don't know if it'll be just a 3-year deal with more guaranteed money in it, or they inch him closer to what he wants. 4 years, 100 million is 25 million per, but that puts him at the top of what's right now. Like that would not, they're talking Bosa's probably gonna get like 30 or whatever, which is gonna completely reset the market for defensive end. So I totally get why Burns is waiting this out. You don't want to settle for 21 and you're a top 5 DE, and all of a sudden Joey Bosa gets a 4-year, $120 million extension, and he's getting paid 30 million per, and you're like, I just played myself because I came back too early, and the fans don't understand that. So that's what's going on. Like Stu said earlier today to me, it's a business. No hard feelings once it's over. The team and the players are usually fine after the fact, but they know what it is. He didn't even have to be there, but he's still there in the meetings and stuff preparing. So it'll work itself out.
Yeah, I'm with you as far as the score goes too. Even without Brian Burns, I'm seeing. I'm gonna say 27-13. I think the Falcons are just that bad. But Bijan Robinson's gonna be the only one they got to worry about. Like you said, Kyle Pitts, he's a quarterback. Kyle Pitts is wasting the prime of his career in Atlanta. He needs to go somewhere else. But I like Carolina Panthers to win this weekend. Des, let's close out the show. Tell everybody where they can find you, because like I said at the start of the show, you got a lot of stuff going on, man.
Yeah, it's football season, so I'm all over the place. The best way is to follow me on Twitter at DEZ_3505 X, whatever they're calling it. Now we're going to keep calling it Twitter. So you can follow me over there. Go to YouTube. You can follow the Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the month. I think we just crossed 900. So just go to Tobacco Road Sports Radio, just search it in YouTube, or go to youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio. The Believe in Panthers podcast is there. You can go to sportscolumnmonthly.com for articles myself and other writers are doing over there locally here in the area. If you just Google my name, I'll pop up something somewhere. So I'm not hard to find, so you can find me if you're looking for me.
Yeah, listen, I thought I was busy with tap outs and touchdowns, and Des is on he's got 18 different things going.
I know.
On high school football game stuff. You can find me on X, on Twitter at tapouts and teenies, Facebook.com/tapouts and touchdowns. Every Monday we do our wrestling show. Wednesdays we do our live football shows where we talk all things football, fantasy football, etc. that normally go Thursday onto the podcast space, and then our YouTube channel at Tap Outs and Touchdowns as well. We are up against it, so we're going to call it a show. So now you can exit the cat cave until next week, but listen to more content on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel and more Carolina-centric podcasts on the Keep Pounding Podcast Network, powered by the Fans First Sports Network. For Desmond Johnson, I'm Ryan Frick, and we'll see you next week right back here inside the cat cave.